Hi everyone, welcome back. I mentioned in my last video that we will be starting on our front end today and that we will be building it using React. Well, when I did mention that, I thought I'll be doing it using JavaScript, but since then something has changed. What if I told you that you could build entire web front ends without a single line of JavaScript? Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's real. So for a long time, like many of you guys out there, I've been dealing with JavaScript frameworks, build tools, and the sheer complexity of modern front end development. So it's powerful, but it can also be a constant headache, right? And just this week, I stumbled upon Jac-Client from Jaseci Labs, which is a tool that lets you write your front end directly in the Jac language, completely bypassing JS. So, you know what? I thought I had to try it. And now, not only does Jac supersets Python, it's also supersetting JavaScript as well. So, the real question here is, can a new language truly replace JavaScript for serious front-end work? Or is this just another niche tool? Let's dive in and find out. So here we are. We are at the homepage of the Jaseci Labs website, and this is what I was talking about. So we are currently in this Jac-Client page, and they have given a comprehensive documentation on how you can get started with Jac-Client. So Jac-Client is actually it's a part of this framework, a new framework from Jaseki called Jac-Scale. So they have deprecated Jac-Cloud and we will be using Jac-Client or Jac-Scale. So now Jac-Cloud, which we used to serve the backend, is no more there. So this Jac-Client, it creates the application, so the backend and front end. Through packaging it, it gives us the backend and front end, gives us a project structure for us to work on. So let's see how we can merge this to our existing project. So when we started our project, we were predominantly using Jac-Cloud. So what's going to happen now is we are going to use Jac-Client. I'll show you how you can set it up. So the prerequisite to this is you need node.js, and also we will have to work on a Linux environment. So when I did my previous episodes, I was working with the Windows system, but that will not work unfortunately or fortunately with Jac-Client. So basically what happens here is, so once you have done this prerequisite installation, you can install Jac-Client using this command. And so Jac-Client is the additional library. You will need Jac-Lang and ByLLM as well. And then you can create a like a project skeleton. It will do the rendering and all that with just this simple command. So there's a new command called create Jac app. So and you can name this whatever the name of your app. So in our case, it'll be expense tracker, and it will create so the main application file, the dependencies node, and the afterwards. And then you can run your app with the same jackserve command, right? So a very interesting stuff here, and it's still under development. They're still adding a lot of features, and it's very interesting syntax as well. So in the same file, in this app.jack file, you will have both backend and front end code. And the reason for that, but what allows that, is because we are writing this both the front end and the back end using Jac language. It's not Python and JavaScript or anything else. It's just Jac. So what differs, what enables the stack to identify what's front end and back end is this CL keyword. So we will be implementing our front end inside the CL block. And also our imports, it will be followed by the CL keyword. And I thought that today's video we should explore what Jac-Client really is about. It seems very, very intuitive. It's you can use the same React, syntax and all that, but we'll be doing it in Jac, not JS. So let's now go to VS Code and see what needs to be done. And I'll be using the Linux system. So let's get right into it. Right, so here we are in VS Code, and as you can see, I'm using WSL, Ubuntu, the Linux subsystem. And before we start installing everything, let's first of all create a virtual environment so that we'll have all our dependencies, all our libraries stored in the same environment. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's name our virtual environment, say check env. All right, and that's there. Let's create a So let's install the required libraries. So we need Jac-Lang, we need Jac-Client, and also YLLM. So let's just keep those as we need. Okay. Let's activate our virtual environment first. So check bin activate. Yeah, okay. So it's installing, and while that is being installed, let me quickly get our original requirements.txt file. Okay, so that's the requirements.txt, and while I'm at it, I'll quickly copy paste our existing files as well. So, all right. So we have the libraries installed, and also now that we have it updated on our code base, let me install the other dependencies as well. So we have .env, we have pillow, we have requests, so on. Okay, now the way we can create, so now we have installed Jac-Client and we can create an app. So the syntax was Jac, the command was Jac create Jac app, and we can give a name, right? So it will, let's say, expense tracker, and it will create a structure under this directory with all the required files we would need. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And if you run into any errors, just know that you should uninstall Jac-Cloud. Pip uninstall Jac-Cloud, and then you can install Jac-Client and the other libraries, and it should work completely fine. So yeah, it takes a little time to install this and render the back app. So okay, there we go. And if we open up this folder, so the expense tracker folder, you can see there we have assets, build, node modules, src, then there's another kind of a file, app.jac, and then you have the package .json, readme, and so on. So this app.jac, this is our main implementation, and you can see there's already like a sample code here, a sample like a front-end code, just simple hello world, and looks like there's some kind of count as well. So you can run this on your own, but in this video, I'm going to just show you how our code would look like. We are going to go into this backend folder. So this is the original backend that we had made so far. And since we are working in this kind of a structure, let's copy. I'm going to just copy all these files. Just or rather, we don't need the requirements. So I'm going to just take that and move it to expense tracker. Yes. And also, so this main.jac, this is where our main implementation is. Our entire backend is here. So we have about like, yeah, just over 400 lines of code. So I'm going to take this. Let me first of all get the imports. So we have the imports up here. Just take this with the doc string. Open this, and I'm going to paste our imports here. This I'm going to just completely remove, but actually, you know what, I'll keep this like this. So this is the important part. We need to define this app the same with the same name as this the name of the file. So that is a requirement that's mandatory. And apart from that, you can define your workers and all of that, but not in the same file. So we can keep the front-end imports as well here on the top, and then from the front back-end side, we will just take up all these lines of code right to the very bottom. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into our app.jac file. So it's very straightforward, right? We are just maintaining the same file. Later on, we can refactor it. Actually, Jaseci Labs has already released a version where you can maintain the backend in a .jac file and the front end in another format called .cl.jac. So it's you can really organize your codes as we go along. And there's another file type as well called .impl.jac, which I will discuss in maybe a future video. You know how we can refactor these codes like the walkers and all that without having it in your main Jac file. Take it into a different file and call it from there. So this is the backend, and this is where we stopped last. This is where we finished. So we made a lot of adjustments and all that, and there were a few errors that we faced. But once we had the front end built up, we can go ahead and do that. So now, how are we going to develop our front end? Let's first validate whether this actually works, right? So I'm going to, it says here the next steps we have to do is we need to go into the folder of a directory and then run a jack serve. So let's do that. I'm going to go to the expense tracker. Then I'm going to run a jack serve app.jack. So let's see if there are any errors and whether it's working. So what's expected is we won't be seeing our original smart expense tracker, the backend. We would be just seeing this simple application code because this is what is defined in our CL block. So uh, right now it's just a simple implementation, just to show a working uh, functionality. So let's go to our browser and see what our front end looks like. Right, so here we are, and as you can see, we are in the local host. But there's another thing I need to mention here. It's not like before. So earlier we were able to check our endpoints using the Swagger documentation, with the docs. But this is still not yet supported in Jac-Client. It's coming soon. That's what I heard. It's coming soon. But right now, what we can do is we can directly access our front end using this endpoint. So we can go to page/app. So there we'll be able to view our front end as it is defined in our app.jac file. Okay, so here we are, and as you can see, there's printed hello world and there's a count, and when you click on this increment button, the count is going up, right? So it's just showing that, okay, the CL block is functional, it's working, but what we want is our smart expense tracker, right? And there was no JS code. If you remember, it was on the same Jac file, and that is the beauty of it. It's like unifying it. It's unifying the front end and back end on top of Jac. No separate programming languages. It's all using Jac syntax, and using the different libraries, we are able to build an AI application on Jac itself. Right, so let's go back to VS Code now. So in this, we'll be using two React components, this useState and useEffect. So let's define that at the very top. So it's already there, CL input from React, useState and useEffect. So it's mainly for the state management and then to initialize our graph, to manage the outputs and all that. So that is basically it's needed to, hit the backend API endpoints. So I'm going to just go ahead and maybe erase this completely. And let's start off. So I don't think we'll be able to hit the entire front end today. We are just laying the foundation. We need to define certain endpoints and manage the state of certain parameters, certain areas like our dashboard. Then when you think about the expenses, maybe the amounts, the merchants, images, texts, text description, the queries, and all that, we need to uh, keep track of the state to make sure that our backend and front end are in line with each other. So let's go ahead and start start setting that up, initializing these states, right? So if we take our dashboard, we will set it, maybe it's the dashboard. Um, what do we know that? Autocomplete, so dashboard data, and then we have set dashboard. Okay, yeah, use state none. Then we can also define our maybe the queries, query and set query. Then query response, yes. Also maybe loading. I don't think that's, let's say, to keep track of the form submitted. So when you're like entering expenses manually, like without a semantic string, if you just have to enter it field by field. We have to keep track of that form as well. So let's this we defined it very early on in our series. So current form and then set current form. Okay, a use state. Let's keep that as a string. Now, create response also would be a string video, and then we have the normal extensor. So if we we can put image path, maybe text as well. Yeah, text description, and also the amount. So we have the amount and set amount. Since the amount is a float, we can keep it as 0.0. Then the date, category name also, I guess, would be required. Let's just change this to maybe category. Let's keep it simple. And then we can also set maybe, so we have amount, yeah, merchant. And I think that be enough for now. If we come across anything else, we can set it up later. And so this we have like initialized some states, as you can see. And next we need to do a useEffect. So in the Jaseci documentation, they have kind of given us like a sample code, like a small boilerplate there, which we can use when we are using this function. So it goes as lambda, and it points to none. Okay, let me just autocomplete there. Right, and okay, that's not better, I think. So let's have an async function here. So async def maybe load data, none, and okay. So response will be get dashboard data, and this get dashboard data is actually this is not how we will define it in Jac, right? So we are coding this not in JS, but rather in the Jac syntax. So what we will do here is, first of all, like we saw earlier when we were on the Swagger documentation, we need to initialize the graph before we add any expenses or before we load the dashboard, we retrieve any information. It's very important that we initialize the graph. So let's first of all do that. So I'm going to just put maybe init result maybe, and then init graph. So Jac has this kind of thing. So we have await, since we're using async, and then we are going to use this keyword called spawn. Actually, before spawn, we need to know where we are at in the graph. So when the root, and then spawn. So spawn is basically calling the API. In this case, it will be the init graph API or the walk endpoint there. So init graph and then the brackets, parentheses. Right. So once we have initialized our graph, then we can go ahead and get the response. So let me just change this to maybe dashboard response, or say result. And same goes for this as well. We'll be using an await, root, spawn, get dashboard data. And okay, so dashboard result dot report. That's not needed. Then let's just have a conditional statement here. So if the dashboard result dot reports, and the dashboard, so we need to check the length of this is to be greater than 0. So how would we do that? This dashboard result dot reports dot length greater than 0. Okay, this would be actually, here we are going to not take the response. It would be we need to set the dashboard data. Yeah, perfect. And then else response is none, then we can we can remove this line, load data, and yes. Cool. All right, so this is our entire CL block, as you can see what I've highlighted. This will be the function, the app that is called when we run a Jac serve. So earlier we were just running the backend. So here Jac gives us the how do you call it? It gives us this amazing functionality where you can connect your front end to your backend in Jac itself, and all these endpoints, we are using this spawn keyword. We can hit our backend endpoints and connect it to our front end. So more on this in the coming videos. I hope I gave you a great idea on what Jac-Client is all about, what we can do with it, And actually, when I planned on doing this video, I was planning on doing it using normal JavaScript, but then bang, this came up out of nowhere and from Jaseci Labs, and it's going to make our life a whole lot more easier. And also, they have this new feature called where you can organize your files more conveniently using .jac. Then there's .cl.jac, and also another format called .impl.jac. So more on those in the coming videos. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have any problems, if you have any comments, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the very next video. Goodbye.